So in the last video, we went ahead and entered the patient ER donkey into the system. Now we've received word that the evaluation's been scheduled. The therapist lets us know that they contacted the parent and scheduled the evaluation for the 3rd at 9:30. So I'm going to go ahead and book that appointment for the therapist. We're going to say it's an evaluation appointment, and it's going to be with ER donkey. And now that comes onto his schedule as an evaluation. And you can see if we hover over there, it shows some demographic information on ER donkey. What we're going to do now is go into the documentation screen for Christopher Robin. And we can go to ER. Then we go ahead and create a new evaluation for ER. And it's going to be on the 3rd. And the reason we put in evaluation is in Clinic Source, there has to be an evaluation to link all the other documentation to. We don't actually put much information in this evaluation. We actually create an initial plan of care, and that's as our initial evaluation. So we're going to go ahead and put a diagnosis in here. That the diagnosis also is linked in the evaluation and flows over to the charges. So that's why we do have to have at least a skeleton evaluation. So I've created a brief therapy evaluation. And so all we do have to do is right here it says that they should refer to the plan of care. And we're going to say that it's going to be 1 to 2 times per week for 60-minute sessions. That's all we have to do for this. But again, that is just so we have something to link this evaluation to. So here's the evaluation I just created. So I'm going to select that, and then we enter the initial plan of care. So the initial plan of care, this actually, the format of this has changed, and we are working on that to create the areas that we're going to address. Right now, I need to cut and paste that into the system. Again, that has been fixed with Clinic Source, but we're building out those forms, so they're not ready yet. What I do right now is I go to a Google Doc and I have the areas that we address, and I just cut and paste them into here. Then the therapist can comment under each of those sections. So because it's an initial plan of care, there in the section progress to date, we put in NA. It's the initial plan of care. We typically put, I will default in that their rehabilitation potential is good. And then we have a formatted text right here that we put in for that. Again, we want to have speech therapy. It's going to be 1 to 2 times a week. I'm going to say for 60-minute sessions. Our estimated duration is always 60 days because the state designates that our plans of care must be updated every 60 days. So we do that. Anticipated date of discharge, we can put that in here now, or we can put in patient's condition is chronic. Discharge date is unknown at this time. Some of our kids are real severely involved, so that we don't know their discharge date. If we do have an anticipated date of discharge, we put that in here. And we have a little calendar lookup that we can kind of choose that. Place of service is typically the home for us. And here, our procedures we'll put in for the 60-day period. We anticipate 8 of those, 2 of those. The modalities are, I put in individual, then the therapist can come and pick which modalities they're going to be using, and we have a table that we can add modalities here, so they can use that as a checklist. So let's say they're going to put in real techniques, feeding techniques, parent training, and early language therapy. Okay. Then I'd also go over here, and I would add in this statement. Again, we do have a update in the system that we can now have this default in here, but we're building those forms. And then our state wants us to signify how we might interact with other agencies. So we have this form. This is for one of our CCBs that we always put this statement in because we share our notes with them every month. So at this point, we do select this, that it does act as a prescription, because that is mandated by our state, that a therapist, or that a physician sign off on each plan of care. And then typically, since the date of the plan of care will be the 3rd, we book out 7 weeks just to make sure that we are compliant within the 60 days in case there's a cancellation. We found that that 60 days seems to work pretty well. Or, I'm sorry, the 7 weeks seems to work pretty well. So we go, I count them, 7 days, and then when we save this, I save this for the therapist, it does default in here for those, that's the plan date. We need to have a from and to date. We also have to have a diagnosis on this, and here's the information we have so far. Then I just go ahead and go out here, and then I'm done with